Welcome, collegiate fans, to the NJCAA Grand Finals for the R6 division. My name is Sal, also joined here today by my right-hand man of Binks. How you feeling today, man? It's been a little while, about a whole day to be exact, since last time we've casted together.
Yeah, not even. I think we're not even past that 24-hour mark. But
No?
hey, look at this. We're back and we're ready to go. I'm feeling good. I feel quite energized. It's a bit windy and crazy stormy outside, but more reasons to stay inside and watch some phenomenal collegiate gameplay.
It is true. It is the grand final in a best-of-3 fashion, and my, we have not talked about the teams yet. Let's go bring up the two rosters here for Barton Community College and also the Rockland Community College as well. It's going to be Thugonomics, Urfi, I'm Toaster 5000, Salty Archer, and Jester on the side of Barton. Then also Rockland, it's going to be the Profilers, Grand Weasel, Starboy, Real, and then Roll My Egg Roll. Man, these are some absolutely creative names, and I'm hoping here for this best-of-3 series, Banks, that the gameplay will be just as creative as well.
I'm sure it will be. I'm looking forward to actually getting to say these names while in game. We'll see how many times I get twisted. It's going to turn into a tongue twister for sure. But regardless, another really important point that we have to start talking about are the maps. Because where we are going to be doing battle, the maps we go to, how these teams are able to play will be heavily influential.
Yeah, we've got some creative picks here, starting out on Clubhouse, a pretty 50-50 and relatively standard map to bring us in. And then after that, it's going to be probably a lot of packed action. It's going to be Coastline, then the decider, if we get there, of course, that is going to be Chalet. The first two bans were actually Oregon and Cafe, but we don't have to start filling for even more time. We've got the gameplay already ready up here for Clubhouse. Like I mentioned, we can start discussing about the operator bans that will come down in a few short moments. Binks, what do you think we're going to be seeing here tonight? Do you think we'll see the common and relatively stock standard picks here, or do you think we'll see a couple of surprise bans here, maybe a few targets in this grand final?
Well, Barton is going to be starting on defense, so they have the first initial pick. I see them immediately getting rid of that Thatcher, allowing for a lot more freedom in their play style. But now Rockland in more of a retaliation, especially on Clubhouse, they're going to be getting rid of a hard breach. I'm expecting maybe a Maverick to shut down these walls or even an Ace to make things easier. But no, it's going to be the Jackal, and that is a valid pick in some cases, because it allows for a lot more freedom on the defensive end. And if they are competent in their droning abilities, information gathering, then they have nothing to worry about getting rid of that Jackal. It more favors them.
Yeah, normally you see that Jackal, like you said, it kind of describes confidence, or you're a team that loves to roam and you hate playing against Jackal. It's either one or the other. Mira gets banned, though. That's a pretty default one. And the last one will probably either be a Wamai or the Valkyrie here. It's going to be that Intel Gatherer of the Valk. So we could see a lot of util in this matchup for that defensive side, especially if they love to go on a couple of extensions here and there, particularly if they want to go towards gym and bedroom. But having that Flores on the board and also the double hard breach of a Habana along with that Maverick could honestly make things still relatively attacker favored, despite the fact that there can be a lot of util brought on the board by Barton because that Wamai was not banned.
The Wamai not opting to be picked, but we also didn't mention that Cade escaped that ban phase. Now IQ can spot out those Electric Claws, but regardless, no matter how much electricity there is on a wall, Maverick will be able to break right through. So I'm interested to see how they're actually going to try to counter it out. And as far as projectile protection, we only have I'm a Toaster, who's going to be running the Jaeger. It's going to come down to how much of a utility dump Sunny Rockland is going to go for. If they are able to competently clear out an area and really look to expend utility, then that's where we're going to see things be absolutely detrimental on the side of Barton.
Well, speaking of Barton, I'm expecting them to go for a pretty heavy anchor setup. They don't have a Mute, no Mozzie. They've got a more conservative-based lineup. They're rocking that Kaid for the hatch denial. They've also got Smoke, who can play inside of Dirt Tunnel and waste a lot of time for that standard push where you go inside a kitchen, start that vertical play, and then work your way a little bit deeper into the map here. And the Thunderbird as well by Thugonomics. I was going to actually question that if he'll set up these Kona stations a little more proactively, and he'll actually deploy them near those main extension spots, one near the back generator area inside of blue, and also one set up in dirt to help out that Smoke player that I was previously mentioning.
I do like these setups. They seem to have a clear goal in mind. 2 of the ADSs being inside of Generator will opt to really hinder any sort of push. The moment you get a hit onto any one of your opponents, they're immediately right back up and ready to go, and they have the projectile protection that rotates out. It does seem quite foolproof until you have the proper angles covered, but at that point, it does give Barton enough opportunity to use utility to rotate back or to just take the gunfight while they still have that advantage.
Here's that Rockland are opting to actually get blue control first, and they could probably pivot around inside of the bar area, get that Moto hatch opened up as well, and also then start to dive a little bit deeper inside of Kitchen. They don't have really a main vertical player. Profilers have some breaching charges, but it can be very deadly to set those up inside of Kitchen if there's a well-placed Nitro at the ready, which Barton, they've got a couple of them, one being in the hands of Thug and the other one by Jester, so it could be a very deadly game out for that Ash player, and it happens almost instantly. Not on the Ash, though. It's going to be roll down for the count. Your Thermite now gone. Your only Harbinger left here in this round is going to be that Maverick, and that just made the lives of Rockland 10 times more challenging, as they probably don't have good chances of getting that Kitchen hatch opened up with only the Maverick, as that could be an instant death. And look at how aggressive Thug is still playing inside of Kitchen, trying to find a second here for his team.
If they would have just waited a tiny bit longer, they might have caught the player off guard. But regardless, look at this utility dump we are now seeing on the side of Generator. Swing covered from his comrade of Earthy, but now Profilers needs to get control. Supported by Lynn, they have a minute to go. Smoke canisters have also now been detonated. All this utility being dumped at stopping this push before it can even turn into anything. Profilers finally pushing up as the smoke dissipates, but there's the long angle from I Am a Toaster. He's going to be able to knock down Profiles, leaving us in a 2v5. Grand Weasel and LN Real, they have to make something of this, but there's Thugonomics to shut things down, and Grand Weasel stuck in an undesirable 1v5.
Yeah, it's a pretty big task to try to accomplish here. I don't think Grand Weasel will be able to do that. He's just proning at the top of the secret stairs, probably just allowing his teammates to communicate with him, not really being that much of an oversight. So that round will almost guaranteedly go towards Barton's side. And overall, just a great anchor hold. They didn't overextend all that much. Really, the most they did to get aggressive was just playing inside of both secret and maybe that middle area of main stairwell. Most of that action dwindled down inside itself, using some great Nitro cells, and also just getting a nice couple of pop shots here and there. So a great defensive hold by Barton, really forcing Rockland to make that first move and fail in it in that first round.
That also comes down to the info from Barton. They were able to maintain control, and I think that was a very explosive opening kill on Thermite of all operators. Although it's a collegiate hatch, one of the most powerful parts about that is the fact that you can hear such a clear audio cue, and it's more of a 50-50, and you can use your ears to help narrow that down a little bit more of which side that thermic charge is being placed on to open the hatch. And once it got down to that point, it was just a matter of Thugonomics actually going for that C4 and detonating it. Really enjoyed it, and it showed so much confidence and how comfortable Barton was on the basement.
Well, first round in the books for Barton. Let's see if they can continue that success, or Rockland might be here to upset perhaps. It's going to be Gym and Bedroom with a pretty heavy emphasis on that util game. So I'm anticipating Barton to extend over near that cash room, which is going to basically just waste a plethora of time. If that mirror was allowed in play, Binks, it could have made this extension even more challenging for Rockland. But luckily, because they actually managed to end up banning her out and not leaving her on the board, at least they're not going to have to worry about a gigantic presence inside of Logi, while also having to deal with those mirror windows, allowing for some easy one-line sights for Barton to possibly capitalize on an over-position angle by Rockland.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb and defuse.
Heading into this action phase on the side of Rockland, one of the most influential parts is going to be that Capitao. If they're able to properly drone out an area and know that there are no Wamai pucks and only ADSs, because you never see them converge with each other, then those exfoliating darts could so easily push any player out of their position because they are not able to be caught from those ADSs. in regards to any sort of util,
Attackers
a
have
good
located
choice
bomb.
to bring the IQ. You don't see her selected as often as she used to be, but now with the ability to look through windows, see where you have those projectiles, it looks like this could work very well in combination with the previously mentioned Capitao.
And fortunately, the fact that Maya's on the board, that is a hard counter to Starboy's pick on that Capitao. So you'll need to burn through those magnets and also ADSs first and foremost to properly utilize those stick-dating, also those smoke bolts as well. But a little bit of hard destruction comes in through by Rockland at a decent pace here, getting that jacuzzi wall opened on up. And if they want to rotate, they can most certainly do so at that point, now having a
Attackers
first
recovered the
avenue of approach to go with. And now at this point, they can either go all the way around inside of cash room and start or Ash this time around, or even a bucket, that it's probably going to be a pretty linear take from both that CCTV side and also the jacuzzi wall.
Good opening pick here from Salty Archer, and there you go, fellow. You mentioned the bolts getting caught by the Wamayas, and especially there, that smoke hurts no one except for the attackers. Thugonomics now doing what he does best, getting a little bit aggressive, but keeping it tamed. However, that will almost not work out, swinging out right at the right time to catch Starboy's sins off guard. He'll be able to farther the man count to favor his team as they go hurtling towards the final minute.
Magnet activated.
Rockland again on the back burner here. 3 versus 5. Profilers almost opens up with a good kill on towards Thugonomics, but he'll dodge those bullets and now reposition. But yet again, it's that Nomad just waiting patiently for Thug to overextend his body. That could be a massive pick, and you only have to worry about the sight. They look away. It's a swing by the Goyo, gets one, and it's only up to Grand Weasel yet again. Hops inside a CCTV, but that pistol will cut him down. It's Barton with their second round on the defense bigs.
That's very tamed with their aggression. They had a lot of key setups, and every single time there looked to be a use of utility, a highlight of the Capitao trying to push his way into construction. We saw the first bolt, the smoke bolt, come out, and in almost every single scenario, that would work out. That you burnt the first one, you send your fire bolt, if we want to call it that as well, and it did start to light up Thugonomics. We saw his health points quickly evaporating. But the one mistake there is that you got too aggressive with it. It's not an instant kill. It just blocks down the area, so it forces them away. So you want to wait that extra second to know that, hey, I should watch to see if they swing it, because it's so hard to aim and shoot someone when you're jumping through a window. You wait to see if they get aggressive. But after 2 seconds with the exfoliating bolt, then you were all set to continue pushing. Then you get right in there, you can smoke off and continue to work in tandem with your team, and you're all set. But regardless, it was a very phenomenal push, and we saw a fix there come out from Thugonomics in order to be quite frank, go absolutely insane 5-0 in 2 rounds.
10 seconds remaining.
Really big fan of the Yank pick here by Rockland. One of their biggest issues is the fact they haven't been aggressive enough when making these initial pushes against Barton, and having those Candelas completely blinding someone no matter how far away they could possibly be, as her range with those flashes are pretty far, to say the least. It could open up a lot of opportunities for them to finally get their first round, but the amount of clear that they have, regardless of those Ying Candelas, is quite small, to be honest. You've got Starboy rocking those smoke grenades instead of those flashes, so if you don't time everything properly, that could allow for ADSs to reset and B, give more time for Thugonomics to find some more magnets in this round, and perhaps Rockland, they're going to want to get as aggressive as they're going to be possible. Already opening up that flat wall, and having the Ying so close in that main area could allow for a potential rush, but it looks like Rockland can pull away just before that happens.
This is quite huge to have the wall open so fast. My aggro also doing quite some damage with those pocket breaching charges, or secondary breaching charges if you want to call them. Regardless, look at this, a minute, you still have the Maverick on the board, all this map control, and the nade being cooked. This could be absolutely lethal. Gonna throw it up, only light up if you a tiny bit. I think that is the best possible scenario for Barton But look, there's so much map control being set up here, John, and it's just a matter of how Rockland is going to be able to maneuver and manipulate the site.
Big problem for them, though, is the fact they have not cleared out Raptors, and if they want to go for a flat wall and Khan's take, they need to shut down that player inside of the top garages. He can hold a very long sight line against the plat play, and also when someone runs in through that main doorway leading inside of cash room, this could be a very deadly play against Rockland if they do not play their cards right. They still have a minute to work with. Candelas come flying in out. There's no ADSs or magnets to catch them, and that could rally in this push. Roll my egg roll, hop right on in, try shut down that player inside of Raptors, and it works out for him. Rockland take that first pick and now could potentially set up for a plant, but there is still some denial left on the board. That Nitrous cell will have to ring it through, shut down that player. Jaeger runs in towards CCTV, picks up one, and Urfi will get rid of Rio. All of a sudden, Barton will now retake it. They're holding strong on this angle, but here comes Profiler. Shuts down one. Plant will be attempted a second time, but here comes the Malusi. She swings into action, but it's not enough. Rockland keeping strong here and holding down those power positions will finally gain them their first round here.
Power positions is exactly what you want to be using in that scenario. You had all those angles open up. We had a little push from the flank through construction. We had even the Maverick of, I do believe it was Urfi, go down below early round. Oh no, sorry, not Urfi. Urfi's on defense. That would have been Real, who went down below with the nades. That's pressure from every single angle on CC. And it showed so much comfort on the side of Rockland to be able to manipulate, cut off the site, and those initial Candelas completely gave them Raptor control. Whereas the setup from Barton completely expected for the garage push to come from garage door and maybe even garage walls, where they could be using their secondary charges once again. But the adaptation and what I honestly was not expecting as much 100% played into Rockland's attack.
Especially since Barton were really not expecting someone just to hop in through the CC window. I think they were expecting someone to fully clear out Raptors in that play. So, pretty good adjustment by Rockland overall. They're not going to bring out the Ying a second time, though. They've got a very heavy emphasis on that hard destruction. But sadly, no main soft breach. Again, they have no breaching charges, they don't have a sledge, and they don't have a buck either, so they might be able to get these hatches open pretty easily and then rotate around inside of dirt. But what else? Get control of blue is, that's really the only third option they have here, as no one's going to be able to gather that many sightlines, but possibly profilers on the IQ. That would really be it, in all honesty, and that's 3 extra sightlines you can open up, and that is it for Rockland.
Well, with them being on basement, I think one of my favorite pastimes as IQ is to play the little side quest or the mini game of trying to avoid any C4 while collecting a whole bunch of information and shooting them out with my gadgets. Or with my gadget of the electronic scanner. And we could see profilers attempt to accomplish that. But one of the main goals is going to be taking out Thugonomics, who's been proven to be a thorn in the side of Rockland thus far, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon, as they are on Thunderbird and on a second floor roam.
Yeah, if that roam is not taken care of, Thugonomics could really rain havoc against Rockland. They've got a Nomad on the board, so there is some potential of that flank watch, but Grand Weasel has not put down any of their air jabs, so it basically nullifies that pick for the time being. It appears that that Nomad is mostly considered for watching the bottom of Secret here, and they'll finally extend a little bit out inside of lobby, but they're not 100% sure it's going to be fully clear. They'll rotate around with their teammate of Profilers, and that could give Thugonomics a second chance here to maybe find some kind of impact early in this 4th round.
This is what it comes down to. The ability to flank, and it's not been spotted out. Thugonomics to find 1 onto the IQ of Profilers, and a quick second kill onto Starboy Sins. Shooting out the extra drone utility. He will now be getting lit up from outside, but he doesn't stop there. Roll my egg roll will capitalize on that over-aggression and be able to take out the top frag of Barton College.
Yeah, phenomenal roam, wasting plenty of resources and also time as well. We're in that last minute. Exothermic charge gets detonated on the kitchen hatch, and because it's not in range of that Electroclaw, it will not be destroyed, and it opens up a small avenue here for Rockland. They've got that back wall opened up inside of dirt as well. They can go for a double prong assault, but that's really all they have. They're down on that man's advantage here, and their Thermite very low in HP on top of that, and they need to worry about Salty, who has not been cleared out just yet inside of dirt, and it forces Real to peel back as well. The best option for Rockland at this point is just to rush in through main and pray to God they don't get shut down by someone either waiting near that Kool-Aid wall or someone just out in the open. Jester just out inside of main hall for some odd reason gets taken care of by Eggroll. I'm quite shocked he was playing so aggressive in these last 20 seconds. A mistake like that could be the final straw to break the camel's back. The rest of Barton are remaining strong on that defense, so the minor mistake is not going to be a big deal. The gist of things as Barton will still take care of that 4th round.
I have a few points that I want to quickly bring up. And that dirt utility is one of them. We saw that the shield, the smoke canister completely deterred any push from Real from coming out because they are the Maverick. What are they going to do to be able to combat that? I don't believe there was even a shield. It might have been cleared out earlier on the round, but the Toxic Babe, and as we saw Real say, oh wait, I have no time. I'm going to continue to push up through this. Nope, there's a Malusi Wub, and that completely shuts any push there. He quickly just evacuated dirt. And not to mention the fact all the shots that were lined up onto the smoke were extremely inefficient because he just went back and healed with the Okoye station.
Bombs from being defused by attackers.
Well, back up to gym and bedroom here for Barton. This is a site they've won in the past, and a really big thing because of that was the fact that Rockland were just way too slow overall on their attacks. That passive play style has not been working out that well in response to how Barton has been playing on their defense. So again, I like bringing out the Ying a second time here, as it will open up a lot more direction for them. I mentioned that on their CCTV attack, and they did end up securing that win just by having that element of surprise and being able to completely catch Barton off guard. I hope it works out just as well as the last time here, and maybe that nade play by Real can be a little more effective as well, as he hasn't really been doing all that much with them in these first couple of rounds. Thanks.
Not too much. I want to bring emphasis to the mute that is now being taken. We saw mute taken multiple of the rounds, but I don't think we've highlighted Salty enough. To the point the last time we saw this bedroom attack, we criticized any ability to get information. While you do have that IQ, it's still worth mentioning that they weren't able to get all the way onto site to gather information on all the other players. You can ping things out from the roof, but in reality, how much memory will that give you? How much information will that be able to relay if you don't have anything to compare it to?
Pretty sure it wouldn't really be a good position for the most part here. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, Binks. That back hatch inside of Logi gets opened up finally by Rockland. Really nothing to stop them so far. Instead of being a little more proactive than they were last time. I don't even think they tried clearing out logistics the first time this site was actually being attacked, but they're up to their old intentions for the most part, trying to get that jacuzzi wall opened up. And that will force Barton back by just a little bit, but they premeditated this. They've got a shield waiting all the way near the end of that main hallway. They could possibly log out a nitro cell as well, and if Real is a little bit too close for comfort, that could blow him up sky high and give Barton that first blood here on round number 5.
You talked about all the angles, the shield especially, over aggressiveness, but that goes both ways. Both these teams are sitting in an uncomfortable stalemate, and it just comes down to one team acting. We can see the one with Grand Weasel waiting for one player to just peek out from CC. Or if you look at the top of Red Stairs, you have the confrontation between Urfi, you have the Jaeger of I'm a Toaster. They're all just waiting to spring. And it all comes down to Rockland's ability to now emphasize and push out onto this site. We're going to see Jester able to find the first kill, case down with Starboy. Now that gives a huge advantage to Barton as they now have to work into this crutch position of battle. Roll My Eggroll is going to be able to get their second round. It will be good without a refrag. Make that a third. Now looking for the K. That's a triple kill for Roll My Eggroll as they completely monopolize the site. Looking for a fourth. It will be Thunderbird to shut them, or sorry, Thugonomics, sorry, to shut them down, leaving it all in a 1v1 between Thugonomics and Grand Weasel. Both these players have enough health to make this work. Grand Weasel has a tiny bit less, but with Case down and both of these air jabs in position, it could spell the difference. Waiting for the rotate, it will be Thug. Spraying the window just a second too late will give away his position. Making his way towards the window, he has the fire rate advantage. If he's able to find that headshot, it all won't matter. But Grand Weasel has the magnification. Waiting for his push, he's going to spring out into action, able to find the kill, a triple kill for Thugonomics to keep the lead for Barton as they are going to be sprung towards 4-1.
A really good attempt by the Nomad, but Thugonomics was just a little bit quicker on the draw. Not having an air jab placed on that outside run out did spell defeat. That's a little unfortunate, not having one extra in your back pocket. Expending both of them directly inside of the site was a little bit of a last decision thought, and not really having any hindsight for how exactly you want to play inside of that post plant. Maybe playing up near Jacuzzi could have been a little bit better attempt, having the audible cue and really forcing the hand of that Goyo, as you already had an air jab set up around that top main area too. But it'll still be a win for Barton nonetheless. I can't talk that much about theoreticals as the round is already over, and we're going back towards CCTV. And on the bright side for Rockland, this is the site they've already won in the background here much earlier in this best of 3 series. The question is, though, can they do it again, or will it be a pretty much flawless 5-1 split here for Barton? Oh, and that 6-pick as well into Frost, that could spell disaster if no one breaks those mats as well.
As a fellow Canadian, I always love to see the Canadian operators being picked. Urfi has done a phenomenal job in adapting to what was previously them being picked for Enroll My Egg Roll. If they are able to effectively block the window without any information on the side of Rockland, then they're all set. That's going to effectively force at least one player to fall into the trap downed, and it could almost guarantee it stop the push. But in retrospect, you also have the window, which could give you the line of sight all the way over towards the wall. If he places 2 frost mats here, as soon as one gets in, they spot it out. You look over towards the wall. I think they'll spot it out. I'm calling it though. They're gonna spot it out. And then as soon as they open up the line of sight from the wall, you spot it out regardless. I'm not too convinced.
I'm trying to think about it, to be honest, because there is a little bit of util. I think they placed one ADS next to it. But if we see a default take by Rockland where they get control of Raptors, this could pretty much just deny that. Or if they just rush into a flat wall, which is something you can do if you have a Ying in play, just manage to run in before that player inside of red can pick you off, currently being Salty Archer. But it looks like Rockland are just going to attempt what they did earlier in the round. I also think, Binks, you can just simply shoot those frost mats underneath, because the flooring is soft, but not having that IQ, you're not going to spot that out unless you have a drone already set up inside of CCTV itself. And again, I'm not too sure if Rockland have that done already in the round phase, or if they just kept those drones in their back pockets. Not entirely sure.
I don't think I could spot them out. Unless frost mats are now battery powered, which would be quite interesting to think about. Regardless,
I don't see IQ in play a lot, so I wouldn't actually
maybe
100% with you.
Thugonomics used one of their impacts early on the round. He's also going to be spotted out on drone. Whether or not he spots the drone,
Bomb located by attackers.
he has the info from their team. He's got to play off of that. Weasel not able to capitalize, but that will give Profilers the go-ahead to get Radon into sight. But they haven't shot out the frost mats behind him. He will now see them at the corner of the screen. Profilers, all it takes is one single bullet, but there's the nade to take that out. Good night. There is a sea of orange, all favoring the players on Barton, but Weasel and Profilers has something to say about it. Toaster to find Profilers. Weasel find his second of the round. He's going to unfortunately have to find 2 more. Spraying out, he'll find his third onto Thugonomics, but there's the swing from Toaster. You can't do it all, especially with such a limited magazine such as Nomad. And that's going to be a 5-1, almost flawless split for Barton Community College.
Did Profilers just run into sight through Plat Wall?
Yes.
I think he did, because you mentioned both the frost mounts were still on CC window, and there was still a guy in rafters. I don't know how Barton let that happen, but at the same time, immediately clapped back once the rush was fully confirmed, and it wasn't just Profilers in sight. I guess they planned that one out perfectly again, somehow expecting the rush. So it's a 5-1 split for Barton here on Clubhouse. This has so far been a very one-sided affair. However, in recent times, especially in collegiate, you tend to see one of the two sides on Clubhouse to be very one-sided. I am wondering because of that, if we're
Attackers
going
need
to
to
have
locate and
Rockland,
defuse as
you know,
many
return
bombs
the
as they
favor
can.
a little bit now that they get to be the main defenders here on Clubhouse. But honestly, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you, because they're not running complete defaults, and there are a couple of hard counters here on the side of Barton. They've got plenty of nades to play around, and the fact that there is no Wamai, unlike Barton's defense, that can allow Jester to utilize those Capital bolts pretty effectively and really have nothing stand in his way for that potential clear inside of Rafters.
Not to mention the fact that Maestro has also received some Is that the Maestro shotgun?
Oh my god, he's got the shotgun. Oh, Real, I love you. That is...
Rio.
It's a good gun. However, the Alda and the NX Storm are like 10 times better, so...
Attackers have
It's
planted
It's a
quite
good
fun.
gun if you were to like put it in someone else's kit that didn't have those weapons. So you're definitely correct there.
Yeah, like Castle or Pulse, maybe.
Maybe,
Maybe.
maybe if Cal's could do that and shoot through his own barricades, that would be a very good bomb for him.
Yeah.
Which he doesn't really need, but regardless. We could also look at the fact that there's a Twitch from Urfi. That allows them the ability to go and zap those Maestro cameras and completely negate them. They once get disabled, then the second time you can actually shoot to break them outright, which is quite useful considering that even though you can melee them, you're oftentimes going to be putting yourself in a vulnerable position. Also, the sledge to counter out any sort of Maestro cam works as well. Soft destruction. It seems like a very well-rounded, while not typical roster or lineup. Barton does seem to have.
Ooh. It gets tossed out, but the intel was right up already. It was a quick pivot around as I'm expecting Rockland were well aware that someone's probably underneath getting ready for a nade play, as that's exactly what they attempted on their own attacking half. That final grenade being used by Salty to maybe get rid of this Electro Claw and make that hard destruction done by Toaster a little bit easier, but they're
located
not
by attackers.
100% sure as to where it's placed. Right behind that main TV set, that's a pretty common angle to make sure no one can break that Electro Claw without tossing a nade and wasting that valuable utility. But again, there's no Wamai on the board, so it doesn't matter all that much in the scheme of things that those nades are gone, because they still have those asphyxiating bolts to remove from those power positions set up by the anchor game. But I don't know if you can walk through that hard destruction. I don't know if that's a visual bug, or it might be a visual bug, as it's not shown on the other side of the wall. I'm hoping to God it is, because that would suck for Barton as they try to run in through plat wall and just get basically a half invisible wall bigs.
They do have that bulletproof camera, which could prove useful. An interesting thing about those is that they can see through smokes, if I do remember correctly. Now, very interesting play. Maestro Cam will be shot out, and I think over the 1 minute mark, especially when you know you're about to lose control, that's the perfect time to start zapping. It didn't do that much damage, which is a bit of insult towards the side of Barton as they continue their push towards Rafter. They have very solid control. The cross angle is now established. The next step is just to, well, you know what? Take the site, because it's already yours.
Really wondering why they have smoke plants on the Raptors. Now they don't have any main ground to get that first one. Grand Weasel tries to have a lot of impact for his team, but is only good for one. Plant going down. The only one left alive is going to be Real with that shotgun, the slugs in hand, and it's not going to be anywhere close enough to deny Barton of putting themselves in towards match point, a relatively seamless execute. And I feel like Rockland just made a lot of basic mistakes, and it just kind of piled up in front of them and basically shut them out of having any chances of winning that round.
It's worth mentioning on the side of Rockland that they did have a good initial setup, but they were more expecting a aggressive push. At least that's what I was looking into, where they were expecting to have the ability to just constantly detonate utility, stop it, move on to the next round. They weren't expecting such a slow and methodical push from Barton, where they really worked around. Is that allowed, Philip?
I think so. Like 90% sure, because the question got asked a few weeks ago when I was casting at McCready here, and I'm pretty sure it is allowed. I don't think it's going to really matter all that much anyways. Osa is a really strong operator, but will it have all that much impact on this round? Probably not, unless you get control of blue perhaps, or you're just inside of sight. I don't know if we'll get that far into the round or not. It all depends.
I feel like if it was a CC attack, or possibly if you're looking towards a push towards bedroom, the 2 second floor sites, I think it would be a lot better. And it could have been read into the 6 pick that they could be taking that Oryx to go above, which does make sense. It does allow for a more intricate push, but egg roll, I'm really interested to see how that Oryx will be utilized in combination with Starboy on this 2nd floor.
Yeah, Rockland opting for a heavy roam, but not a common roam. You'll see, it gets to be coined as a SSG roam where you reinforce and commit a lot to that top floor. But this time around, it's just going to be egg rolled and Starboy by themselves up above for the most part with just their own mechanical skill to really play off of. And that was a really interesting Osa shield that Max D was able to highlight our observer for the night. That just completely cuts off any rotate back into main stairs if you're roaming somewhere near that bar area. So in all honesty, if someone overextends near that main stairwell or just runs in through bar where Eggroll is not that far away from, he's just 1 hatch drop away from entering that lower level, that could be a very vital pick for Barton. And speaking of Barton, they're already gaining so much map control here. Unfortunately, with that dirt barricade or that dirt doorway being barricaded up, that will give away the intentions of Barton if they want to try to go for an early swing.
All is quiet right now on this basement front. Flash is being tossed out. I'm interested to see if this is to clear out blue or toss a nade down below. I don't know where that's even coming from. C4 will be prepped, and it will be good for 1. Toaster relegated to the bench, and Eggroll gonna capitalize with 2 huge kill. Both Urfi as well as Thugonomics. It's gonna also have to wait to the next round. It's a 5-on-2 now. It looks like Rockland is not ready to give up this first map.
Oh, pretty strong play so far for them on round number 8 when they need it most. Salty Archer just inside of sight though, gets rid of Grand Weasel, goes for a swing, and all of a sudden things are completely evened on up as off screen Jester will finish off one of those main rovers. Salty was the 3rd on the round. Hold on a second. They reclaim the lead, and now it's up to Starboy, who's still on the roam, to try to win out this round for his team and make sure they don't get kicked out of Clubhouse too early into this best of 3. Salty Archer, if he had that cover, he could have gone for a plant, but he'll wait patiently for Jester to get in the sight with him, and now that diffuser will start to tick down. The legs were spotted out, but Starboy will still remain alive. He needs to win this 1vx situation now, as that diffuser will be confirmed by Barton, and that timer will no longer favor the defenders here. All that Barton has to do is just sit and wait, or sit and look pretty in all honesty. They've got those cutoff angles. They're playing this one relatively passively, one set up near AK and the other one near that dirt doorway. And Starboy doesn't have that many options in terms of getting back into the site. He has an impact grenade, so maybe he could open up the off angle perhaps, but it looks like he'll try to go for the main rotate hole between the main hallway and the site of Arsenal itself, but has to pivot back around inside of blue. There's basically no time left, and he runs into Salty Archer's position. It's a 7-1 victory for Barton on map number 1. What an impressive showing by them, and unfortunately, I cannot say the same for Rockland.
Rockland really seemed like they were playing the catch-up game for most of that first half. I believe that if they did slow things down and try to play more against their opponents, then they would be all set. Like all that they need to do in this scenario is, hey, we have the man advantage. Where can we solidify our defense? Where can we stop a full frontal attack? If they were to throw everything they had left, where would it be from? So putting themselves in their opponent's shoes could be very beneficial, and especially going to a map like Coastline where you always need to think about what your opponent is doing, then that's how you're going to set up properly.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Coastline will be a new leaf, kind of like a clean slate for Rockland, or that is going to be a pretty swift 2-0 victory for the Grand Final Series for Barton. But before we get into that, number 2, we'll go into a short little break and be back in a few short minutes to dissect Coastline and see who comes out on top. Don't go anywhere.
Hello. Welcome back, everybody. to the NJCAAE Grand Finals for Rainbow Six Siege. I'm joined by the lovely fellow, the caster. Make sure you check out his Twitter because there's never a dull moment over there. Just like we haven't had a dull moment in this match thus far, as Barton is going to be leading the series 1-0.
Yeah, Barton had a pretty decisive win overall on Clubhouse, and I'm really fearing for Rockland overall because their showing on Clubhouse was very calm, a little too calm at moments. They had 2 rushes attempted, and that was really it. And they still didn't prove that much of a point. So moving in on Coastline, I'm hoping they can remedy that just a little bit and possibly be able to redeem themselves a bit as well. But we don't have to stall for that much longer, or any longer, I suppose, as we're here to finally get Coastline underway and see what exactly Barton and Rockland want to go in for in terms of banning. And surprise, surprise, Jackal is back up on the chopping block.
Well, that's the same ban from Rockland, because if you look, the colors may be deceiving in this case, as Rockland will be the side starting on defense on our second map of Coastline. Now, I'm interested to see if Barton's going to opt for that Thatcher ban, but there's a lot more freedom because of this map. Like a Montang, man, the French are not getting too much love today. And that opens the door to a lot of interesting pushes, because with both of those operators gone, it seems like it's going to be a lot less of a headache, if you know what I'm getting at. But regardless, the defensive bans are going to continue to shape that with Valkyrie. So information just out the window here, John, and I'm still baffled by that Montang ban.
A bit of a target ban, perhaps. He's not very strong on really any sites anymore. He was pretty good for service, but now that they've pushed where you can actually plant as an attacker on that site, it makes it a bit more challenging if you are going to go for a service plant attempt. So overall, that must be more comfort-based, or like I mentioned, some kind of target ban. Maybe Rockland enjoys bringing out the Montaigne on their attacks, perhaps. I'm not overly sure about that. Malusi ban gets picked as well, which isn't as common as it used to be, but she brings a lot to the table overall. So it's still a pretty strong ban, to be honest. And that could also allow for some more Ying play, perhaps by Rockland. That's something they like to bring out. And when Lucy is on the board, it can be a great operator in terms of denying those aggressive rushes, as it does relay off a lot of information. But the picks here, I was going to look at that Caveira, but it got 6-pick back on Amira. I was going to really question that play, as it can be a very high risk and high reward operator to bring out on the board, but it's the exact opposite for Mira. It's low risk and high reward if you bring Mira a majority of your rounds on defense.
Mira's Black Mirror window is so very pivotal here on Coastline, because even after the rework or map buff, however you want to word it, she still has a very influential role, where even on a map like Billard, or a site like Billards, where I wouldn't always see myself going for the Mira, it still has its position to work. You can place it to counter off VIP, to set up in different key angles. I think my favorite one, however, is going to be the angle at the top of the Cool Vibe stairs. My reasoning for that is that it allows so much information looking in, and as an attacker, any sort of way for you to counter that is just not possible because of all the rotates you have. You have no way to get behind that mirror, or if you have the twitch, which they don't, you can't get in there unless you throw it in through the drone hole up on the roof.
Yeah, trying to deal with those mirror windows unless you get some kind of vertical play perhaps, or like you mentioned, have a nice set of cheeky nades where the shrapnel could potentially break open those windows, is really all that Barton has in their back pockets. But I like the setup overall by Rockland. I'll go back to them. They've got that Mozzie on the board and a couple of Nitro cells to play with as well. They could set up underneath to deny some sort of post plant, and that is what Starboy is attempting right now. So Barton, if they only go for a very linear take on that top floor, they could really be selling themselves short, and might have a couple of shortcomings actually pop up towards them when trying to go for that plant, as they could be met with a Hail Mary set of Nitro cells, just blowing them up sky high.
Interesting enough, it will be the Aces Selma breaching charges to rip open that Billards wall quite early on the round, and a split push instead on the side of Barton. They've already began going down below inside of office. Eggroll, who clearly have the audio cue, is just waiting But now look at this pinch. They're waiting to clear out every single area that they need to. So now the overextension from Egg Roll could be his demise, as Thugonomics also getting lit up in the process. Look at this interesting confrontation though. Egg Roll now finally getting healed back up, but they've had to fall off the position, allowing for Barton to have a lot more freedom in their assault.
That's a really questionable mirror window as well. I don't know why they have it placed up like that, as if you had someone on the hookah window, you would just get shot in the back. There's nothing to protect you there, and I'm pretty sure Barton's setting up for that. They've got a nade in play as well, and that almost finishes off Grand Weasel. He'll remain alive though, and you've got the bonus station to play off of as well, which is the reason why Egg Roll is basically back up to 95 HP. So it's not the end of the world before they try to get destroyed or someone finally gets downed, and the coordination by Barton is strong enough to finally get rid of Egg Roll off the board right after he just healed up a few moments prior. Pendel's come flying on out, and Toaster will attempt to go for this defuse, and so far there's nothing to deny him. Nitro Cell in play, but there's verticality established. Starboy will deny that though underneath, but the plant has still gone down, and despite the fact that Rockland is playing this man advantage, all that Barton has to do is just sit back and let that timer dwindle down.
Big shot coming out from Salty Archer. Nitro cells being detonated, but there's no joy on those. Profilers to find a much needed headshot. Refrag by Salty Archer on the Ying. That is their second on the round. And now with 20 seconds to go, needing a second for the defuse. Starboy looking to go into effect. Swinging out. Needs to find two. Gonna find one. No, not good for the second one. Swing out for the Mira. Will find it, but is there enough time? They'll get on, and with just the nick of time, it does look like the counter defuse on the side of Sunny Rockland will be successful here on the first round on Coastline.
Defenders win.
Barely, by the skin of his teeth as well. Literally 1 second extra to spare to give Rockland that first round win. Already doing better than they did on Clubhouse, or at least equal footing, I suppose. But man, that really did come down to the wire. If Barton had been a little more effective on that clear underneath, finished off someone like Starboy, and kept that vertical play underneath, honestly, there might have been no hope for Rockland on that round, but they were allowed to find refrags constantly, and they were just trading jabs between Barton. It was just enough for them to reclaim that lead and barely get that defuse like you mentioned. So great play overall by Rockland, and Barton, they kind of dropped the bag a little bit once they got that diffuser planted.
They dropped the bag, I believe, more than a few times. It's like someone saying, hey, I know you really need to win. Just like as a quick heads up, this person's allergic to peanut butter. You can give them a bit of peanut butter and they're not going to be able to react. They're not going to be able to do anything. In other words, it's their kryptonite. That entire site had the kryptonite of hookah window. I understand you had a player playing inside of Sunrise, but you clear out Sunrise with ease. You have that hookah window, and that entire setup falls to the ground. There's nothing they can do to really get back from that point. And it could be the exact same situation here on Kitchen if they were to choose. And to give you a bit of frame of reference, it's like going for a kitchen assault and not breaking open kitchen window and just leaving it uncontested the entire time.
Oh, I'm incredibly happy about this round. You want to know why, Banks?
Why?
You want to take a guess?
Attackers are
Small one?
moving to defuse the bomb.
I'll give you hints on the side of Barton. That's why I'm excited.
So on the side of Barton, Zofia, Buck.
No, Buck. Yeah, there you go. Second time. We finally have a main soft destructor after an entire map of not having one.
They had a sledge.
That was my biggest hate overall. And Barton also did bring out the sledge. That is fair. I will give you that. We've only seen main soft destructors on the side of Barton this entire matchup, and they'll bring it out yet again. It really gave me a headache that for the entire time Rockland was attacking on Clubhouse, they refused to bring out either a Buck or a sledge. Back on Barton here, it'll be that Buck player of Thug to try to open up this pick on towards Starboy. He's in a bit of a rock and a hard space, and the soft pings are coming forward, but he still wins that confrontation. No one pushed out quick enough on the side of Sunrise, and that forces Starboy to actually be able to peel back and give him a second opportunity here at life, and maybe just waste a few more seconds and potentially pick up another vital kill to give Rockland a great advantage here on round number 2.
You could call him Neo, because after a play like that, he's essentially been resurrected. He should not be here, but hopefully he won't have a chance, and Toaster will shut him down. Quick refrag from Egg Roll, however, also taking out that air jab that was just recently deployed. But now with 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining on the side of Barton, they have a lot more control that they need to take before they can even have their eyes on sight. And fellow, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but have they not opened up the kitchen window?
I have no idea. It really feels like Barton has just been kind of tunnel visioned on. They have not. They've been so tunnel visioned on this World Sphere. They've forgotten about the bigger picture. At least they'll get that refrag, though. Egg Roll will only secure that first initial pick and be dealt with quite effectively by Toaster. Profilers is still sitting around near lobby, getting nice sightline through the courtyard, actually, and can just play at a distance for the time being. No one's here to flush him out just yet. He could be a great asset by helping out players such as Real, by having a nice double peek established for that main doorway, but Toaster is just around the corner near security to maybe try and find an off angle, and if they get rid of that Jaeger player, they only have to worry about that site presence, and it's Toaster to spring up into action and find his third on the round.
He's been coming up huge for his team here in the second match. His first initial 3 kills, Salty will now go down, and after the changes a while ago to stop that withstand, Salty is going to need the help of Jester to get right back up. 25 seconds to go. It is crunch time. You waited to submit your assignment, and it is now to your fault that you don't have every single option. Jester made good work of it. Real, now the final defender remaining. No C4 in hand, has to find 2. We'll find 1, has the coverage. 10 seconds now to go. But there's the 4K from Toaster, and it'll be Rockland with their second round here on Coastline.
Well, it's actually Barton. That's okay, though.
Oh,
We'll cut that out for the Real. It's all right.
thank you.
Yeah,
The
no
blue
problem,
and
of
the
course.
blue and orange are messing with me.
Yeah, it's okay. At least you're not Scott, and you are, not colorblind. That's a plus.
I am
Actually-
colorblind, fellow.
Just kidding. Well, I think he's the worst colorblind. It's all right. No, but now you can make that an excuse. Actually, be like, oh, I'm actually colorblind. This game is not catering to me. I'm very upset with that, and you can go file a complaint to Ubisoft that they will never read. Unfortunately. But hey,
Well,
that was much better by Barton overall. You were
well,
gonna
you
say
know
things?
what, Scott? You just at me, and we'll go into this colorblind suit together. And they could easily stop 2 of us, but if we get more, they can't stop all of us. I'll say that much. And we'll see what
Attackers
happens,
need to
fellow.
locate and
Because
defuse
as
as
far
many
as I'm
bombs as they can.
concerned, that was a very convincing push, or very convincing 2 rounds. Of course, Rockland's win was a lot closer when they were playing on the side of Hookah and Billards. But it did show that they have the ability to play for refrag, something that I don't think they emphasized nearly enough that previous round.
One thing as well, I'm talking about a lot of positives, something I've enjoyed seeing. This time around, it's going to be Penthouse and Theater. I mentioned a few things early on. Some teams in particular avoid this site like the plague, but Rockland, they are kind of embracing it. They've also got a Warden pick on top of that too, which when Barton has been bringing out that Capital, someone that can bring smoke, and they've been bringing out countless flashbangs as well, that's not a horrible operator. And they also have that MPX with a 1.5. You can hold down a lot of cheeky long angles and also a shield, which those are always helpful. No matter who you're playing exactly. That's one of the main reasons why Alibi is a viable pick on top of her incredibly jack gun with a long-range optic, is having that deployable shield as well. It just allows for better anchor setups to be established, or maybe if you want to go for a cheeky extension, that shield can waste even more time on the attacker's side. And speaking of time management, that's something that Barton has definitely been struggling with in these past couple of rounds on Coastline.
It's that contention, that inability to just make ends meet. A very smart use of the EE1D on the side of the line, with Barton taking the opportunity to get ready to push up. For Profilers, standing his ground, he will be droned out now, waiting for the push. He now has the perfect time. Flashes. Look at all that utility that was now dumped into this clear. Meanwhile, Toaster is still doing his due diligence in clearing out the other side of the site. Nig will eventually be dispatched by Salty Archer, and now down to a 5v4 favoring Barton, as they just need to get a quick little swing here. It does look like there won't be enough adequate view coverage, but look at this cross angle. Quick refrag for the side of Barton, maintaining their man advantage, and now the final assault onto Theater will come into effect.
That Lion barely remained alive, but at least he was able to another chance here to pop out that final scanner. Unfortunately, Rio will just rip him to shreds. Toaster will immediately bounce back, though, onto that Mira. Barton will reclaim the man advantage yet again, and they are opting to go for this play inside of the theater room, but there is ample denial, perhaps, so long as at least Starboy can land some of these shots. He's got backup by Eggroll as well. This could be more than enough, but they don't have any nitro cells to stop that plant overall. Like I mentioned, they can only rely on their own mechanical skill, and with those stuns being tossed out and Starboy not able to pop out his glasses in time, that will keep Rockland at bay and force a post-plant position, as that case will finally be put on the ground here for Barton.
Spray coming out. Toaster to find another one on the round. Only need to find one more. He's at 5 and 1. Can he make it 7 for the round? Possibly not, as it will be a double kill for Salty Archer, as they will be able to finish off that kill mid-res. And there's Earthy to find Starboy Sins as Barton collect onto their second round. And hopefully I got it right this time.
I think you did. You know, just maybe it could have been a second rounder there for Barton. It is. I'm only busting your chops. It's all right.
Scared for a second.
You know? Sign would be a problem for you. Reading is a problem for me. I joke about it with Scott all the time that I switch between biliteracy and also regular illiteracy. Nothing in between. And nothing in between for Barton either. They've been kind of make or break a majority of these rounds. They like to go on those roams early on, getting a little bit of map control underneath in that bottom floor. Then they work their way up, start just some really basic hard destruction, and then going for the plant. They've been pretty straightforward overall, but they haven't done a lot of default things, at least when they were attacking Penthouse, because they went for a theater play, which you don't see very often. Normally you open up VIP, maybe clear out 90, that way everyone is forced inside of theater, and then you go for a plant inside a Penthouse. The exact opposite happened, and I feel like that kind of caught Rockland off guard, and it allowed for Barton to steal away that round just by playing a simple trade game, and once again, just going into that post position, and there was no denial left on the board for Rockland to stop fruition.
Going forward onto this round, I want Barton to do a lot more effective job of splitting up the site. Well, there is still that mirror from Real, and it does look like it could be an exact replication of the previous attempt that we saw from Rockland, which was successful. That means that Kryptonite of Hookah Window will still be there, and with the buck of Thugonomics being selected once again, it looks like he might have heard our cries, as he will be going to the window almost immediately, breaking it open. Spray comes out. No joy, however, as no players have been situated there thus far.
Big sigh for Barton. That could have been a very early pick. And no grenades on the board either, so you do not have a cheap toss up through that single window to kill anybody who's playing too close for comfort. It'll most likely come down to that verticality for Barton, but they've got a buck. That's more than enough, so long as there is no roam game afoot to shut that down, perhaps. There is one playing underneath in that first floor. It's going to be, I believe, the Mozzie of Starboy, who's holding close near that blue door, but there is an air jab keeping him at bay, so it'll have to come down to the buck to make that overextension, that big commitment. It doesn't look like he'll be giving that Mozzie the time of day, really, as he's only keeping close to that blue bar and office area and not getting a little too deep in the sauce here for now.
Look at these interesting extensions. Salty Archer also adding on to that. They are both just looking to find those key positions, and once again, we find ourselves in that interesting stalemate, as Eggroll will take some damage over on the side of Service, and I don't know that that has been communicated over to the wing of Archer, as they will constantly be swinging around, but there's the information. Eggroll will be down, finished off by Toaster up on possibly Roof. A very interesting push, but now Starboy still stuck down below. He is the lonesome roamer on the side of Rockland, as he has a lot of coverage and a lot of things he needs to get done. First C4 will come out, and that will be successful, connecting on to Toaster. Now down to that 4v4, but all these angles are still being held, as Juster is going to be able to find Real. No more C4. Starboy also collecting or being taken out down below from his counterpart of the puck. Plan will now be successful, but no, I stand corrected. Weasel was there waiting for his time to pounce. He'll be able to find two, but he still doesn't know about the player of Iffy, the Nomad on the Billards window. Economics now stuck down below, trying to find where the assailants are that were taking out all of his teammates, but it is just Weasel with a little tick of HP remaining and 30 seconds. Both of the players on Barton will make a lot of noise the moment they try to enter the site.
20 seconds left to do that, though, and they are both playing outside of the objective room. Urfi will remain on that double window to try and cover out on this plant, and one shot to put Grand Weasel in the grave, and he finds it before that plant is necessary. Barton take their third in a row as, although it got a bit sloppy, don't get me wrong, a couple trades were found here and there. They remain to hold a couple of areas on the map to just make sure they were able to lock that one out and deny the 1v4 clutch for Grand Weasel.
It was a very valiant effort, though, and it came from the ability to swing. And you could fault that off there not being a Nomad charge available in that area, but even if there was, it gets blown up by a C4. It's one of those things where you look and say, hey, they have all this utility, why aren't they using it? And it's because Barton did do an effective job of using it to clear out the rest of the building. The one criticism that I would have in that case was the push to the buck down below. He did a very good job taming himself and just keeping Blue, not feeling the need to extend any further because he did have the assistance of the Nomad. But now moving forward into this next defending round, they still haven't been using those windows to look directly into sight like Hookah. It is so much more effective to have two lines of sight from windows as you're pushing, rather than even that one person down below vertically. If you have two people, and we know that they had the coverage from roof, because we had someone on the top of White Stairs window looking to catch off the Thunderbird early of the previous round. So it's just a matter of them finding those picks and finding the availability to make them happen, which I know is possible. But, lo and behold, only time will tell.
This is a pretty big contrast of team comps for Rockland. They've gone from having a really common opposition to play on Hookah to the exact opposite. They've got a cap down the board, which, isn't bad at all. Sometimes it catches people off guard, so it's not the worst thing, and an extra C4 can always help no matter who you ask. And a clash pick as well, which when there's been a Zofia on the board constantly and a Capital along with multiple flashbangs, it really does beg the question, why bring it out? And that could have been a close call, but he's not going to shoot. You can shoot through that mid-reinforcement. That could have been the easiest 2K of your life, Toaster. I'm shocked he didn't attempt that, but he must have not heard the audio cue or didn't expect anyone to reinforce VIP after the prep phase. That was a missed opportunity by such a huge margin, and that will keep things in the 5-on-5 and allow Rockland to potentially hold down this roam position inside of VIP for a very long amount of time.
This is a pivotal moment, Real, making it seem like he is all alone, waiting for Eggroll to have the opportunity to swing. Go for no! Swinging for a second, it won't be successful. My heart skipped a beat there, fella, when I saw that knife come out. It will be the trade, however. And there we go, the Kryptonite being utilized. Archer with the LMGE will hop onto Hookah window and be able to find that first hit onto Starboy Sins, who was playing on that alibi. And now with a minute 40, it's going to be a 4-on-3 with Clash still on the board.
Losing out on that take as well, it's not that big of a concern because all that hard destruction has already been done now for the most part. Salty Archer will find their second of the round. Down goes Real. It's up to Profilers and Grand Weasel with not a lot here to try to prove for themselves. They have a singular Nitro Cell, but other than that, it'll come down to, once again, just being a better aimer in this position. Shield gets destroyed by that Rotero drone, and that will force Rockland back even further in towards the site. And in all honesty, this could most definitely become a potential plant inside of Hookah. And what are you doing, Grand Weasel? He ran into two separate attacking operators and just immediately dropped because of that overextension, forcing Profilers in the 1v4, and Jester will cut him down, giving Barton another round on their attack.
Barton did a very good job of making it seem like there was absolutely no options for Rockland, and it did allow for some of their players to go walking right on into them. It is an unfortunate situation, but when there's nowhere left to go, you are constantly searching for cover. Very good execute from Barton. And now with two failed attempts on hookah and billiards, it will leave Rockland going back to kitchen service, the other side that they came so very close to winning, as it came down to a 1v1 as well as a 4K from I'm a Toaster 5000.
I was going to say, if not for Toaster doing all the heavy lifting on that round, that could have been a really big win for Rockland overall. Maybe they'll be granted a second chance, though. And, pardon me, I had to
Attackers need to locate and
cough a
defuse
little bit
as
there.
many
Sorry, I had to
bombs
go
as
off
they
mic
can.
for a quick second. Rockland as well,
Attackers have discovered the
they're
location of a
just,
bomb.
I don't know how to describe it. Maybe I should go back to Barton instead, perhaps, where they did kind of almost toss that round potentially. It was mostly Toaster doing all the work, like I had mentioned. And Rockland just kind of allowed that to happen, though, in a sense. I feel like they relied a bit too much, perhaps, on falling back towards that anchor once their roam game finally completed. Just not being in the right place at the right
10
time
seconds left
either.
before insertion.
That kind of spelt disaster for them overall the last time
5
Kitchen was
seconds
played.
left before
So
insertion.
maybe because they're rocking for a more anchor-based setup, that could be a,
Attackers' objective
a
is to
direct
defuse a bomb.
counteractment to what they previously made mistakes on earlier here. But, you said this phrase before, only time will tell if the heavy anchor setup actually worked for Rockland.
I think they still need to have that vertical control, because although they have forfeited the buck or the sledge in favor of a Flores, it does seem as if the Flores will be able to go and make vertical holes if need be. And although there's no other vertical capabilities, I'm a Toaster can make small holes, Archer can make small holes. It seems like a more widespread, versatile list where they can do everything, just not exceptionally well, if that makes sense, of course. But John, I'm curious to get your input with how they would be able to dismantle a site like this.
Especially because of that heavy anchor game, if you just get vertical, establishments would be all over. 2 big opening picks for Salty, and in the background, Toaster shuts down Profilers. All of a sudden, Rockland's entire setup has been trained by this LMGE, and Salty is still trying to find more impact on this round, but there are Terror drones being that initial rally call, opening up even more, but I believe he was shot out in just the nick of time. Either that or a jammer caught it to make sure it's not explode just yet, and will be blocked away, forcing Salty to kind of run in with a dry angle perhaps, but now sightlines are being opened up by Toaster with those Selmas. Real gets downed and finished off by the Capitao. I don't believe that's his 3rd round, but I could be proven wrong, and Salty Archer swings out wide and nets another for themselves on this round with the LMG. It's Barton to take 5 in a row, and we're back in a similar position that we were on Clubhouse Pinks.
Fellow, you should be a beta tester, because I think you just spotted a visual bug. That was actually not his 3rd kill of the round, but instead the 3rd and 4th for Salty Archers. Salty was the one that downed him, so he gets credited with the kill, but it probably didn't feed properly into the visualizer or the spectator view, making it think that the person who got the downed kill, which I believe was Jester, to have 3 kills in the round, which doesn't add up. But regardless, look at you go. I'm going to give Ubisoft a call. When I complain about my color blindness, I'm going to say, if you want someone to fix it, my man Fellow, he can't read, but he knows how to find stuff.
Defenders, protect your bomb.
Well, I guess I had to read
Defused
there.
by
That's
attackers.
I suppose. I don't know. All that I do know is Barton are in a really comfortable position yet again, and they're going to just go for basics. They're heading up in towards Hookah Billiards. They've got a pretty all right setup. They've got Illusion for a potential roam game. Toaster could join them as well. Nothing overly being committed here, but they still have plenty of denial for a plant attempt against Rockland. That was one of the biggest issues I had with them when Hookah was attempted for the 3rd and final time, is they just threw everything out the window essentially and basically just moved houses. They didn't have a smoke, they didn't have a Maestro, they had nothing to deny a plant setup, and that's pretty much what Barton went for after they already found so much opening success. A majority of the defensive rounds, Rockland still had some kind of denial, but at the very end, they just kind of gave up on that factor the last time Hookah was in play. And at least so far, Barton will not follow suit, as they'll opt for a pretty straightforward lineup, like I've said previously.
I actually like that they're sticking to something that seems so familiar. It really breeds a lot of confidence in the Barton lineup.
Attackers have located a bomb.
They have a sense of comfortability where they can swing out, and you know that when they swing, there is a backup plan. There's a tertiary set of actions already being set in motion to accommodate for any sort of swing. And we have seen in, for example, I believe it was that first round where that didn't work out, where those swings were just not enough to combat, and that was a very good job on Rockland. But now it's going to come down to the ability to constantly rotate all around. Thugonomics, you got someone right on your window. You got to be careful. Shots being fired in from Real now. Going to be the next in line to take on the absolute gunner that is Thugonomics.
I mean, Thug just simply put it, being a Thug, he just does not have a care in the world on this roam. He gets that first blood for his team, and no one's been able to flush him out just yet. That's a huge time waste, and having a Cell on the Thunderbird, you could play underneath vertically and maybe find another frag for yourself while pretty just comfortable inside of the site. Rotero drone and grenade gets tossed out, but the Legion will just simply change position. Now in the back of the bar top, and no one's thrown him out just yet. It's a swing attempt on the part of the Flores, but he'll win that confrontation. Eggroll will remove that Legion from play, so equalizing things in this last minute. But again, you have to worry about this roam position underneath. The Nitro drone tossed out. It's not going to land on anything but that Flores drone in play, but at least he might be able to utilize that vertical sight line to at least find a second for himself in this round.
These Flores RCE Rotero drones have been coming up huge in this round to really force all the players of Barton out of position. Eggroll finding his third on the round now. Looking to find Toaster, and Toaster will be able to find one on Real, but now it's going to leave Thugonomics stuck. You need to find 4 kills in this round to clutch up. Case has been located. Spraying out through the walls. He needs to find picks sooner rather than later. Sprays, he'll find the Ayana. There's number 2. And now another RCE Rotero will not be able to finish off Toaster. Thug will be getting lit up, and with 21 seconds, he has just enough time to res his comrade, but they don't have any more time to play with. Rotating around, looking left, looking right. Air jab will give away his position tonight. There's Eggroll to find a quad. Can he find the ace? No. Thugonomics to find 4. But there is not enough time for him to get the defuse, as Sunny Rockland will be able to take their second round as they begin to fight back.
And if a few more shots were landed by Barton in particular, I believe it was at least someone playing up inside of Hookah. Can't quite recall. I don't think it was Thug just yet as he was coming back from that roam game. It was Toaster, most likely. If they had landed a couple more shots there, that would have been the Nomad dead, and that would have forced off the plant, and that would have bought some precious time for that rotation to happen by Thugonomics to come back up above and help out the Lone Jaeger by themselves inside of Hookah. That wasn't the best play overall for Rockland, but luckily they were able to just barely deny that from being a huge issue and just sit quite comfortably in that post plant with the Flores doing a lot of that heavy lifting, getting the quadra kill. Overall, pretty impressive stuff, at least by the Flores in particular. But you cannot always rely on that one highlight player to do everything for you. He cleared out so much of the map, gave his team plenty of room to breathe and set up for those plant positions. And on top of that, we got the kills as well. So if we do not do any more team play by the rest of Rockland, this could spell for a possible disastrous second half for them. And we could see match points sooner than expected again, things.
Look at this, though. What an interesting setup from Barton. It looks to be a VIP extension as they go for the hold on to Theater as well as Master Bedroom. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the site is more viable now that you are able to electrify the wall, but it's still vulnerable to that same thing that so many other sites are. That vertical nature. You go down inside a kitchen, shoot the ash charge up, send a Flores RCE Rotero drone in, and you immediately know where that, I believe, Electro Claw is set up, and you're easily able to break that. You're into sight, you're into wherever you need to go, and bada bing, bada boom, you're in. But lo and behold, is that no hard breach on the side of Rockland?
Yes, you'd be correct. You might not need it because the triple walls basically been completely opened up. Not too sure though. It depends on
Been located.
how well Rockland can play here. Having to worry about the exterior VIP wall that like Max is highlighting, that's going to be a whole nother debacle here that Rockland might not even try to attempt to deal with. They still have Starboy up on the roof, which I mean is a great position to play in when watching through Skylight. But now you haven't even been able to get that first pick. Real will drop dead by the hands of that Kaid roaming underneath. That's going to give Barton that first initial lead with a majority of these players on the side of Rockland still just sitting outside and really not 100% sure as to how exactly they want to approach on this 8th round.
Well, I'm guessing they don't want to contend with Urfi, who does have that shotgun in hand, but be careful, Toaster. You gotta watch out, and there's the shotgun of Urfi on the alibi to come alive here in our 8th round. We'll be able to find one. Meanwhile, Thugonomics who's gonna find one. Toaster refragged by Profilers. That's a 1v4 now, a run out with 1:15. John, I don't know what else can be done. The long angle being held by this warrior alibi. I'm sorry, something about that shotgun just rings in my ear.
It is pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Is it as good as the MX4 Storm or the Alza? No, it's not. Nowhere close. However, it is not a bad pick overall, and you can hold some really annoying long angles, and that gun basically 2 shots at almost any range unless they are, 50 plus meters out. So it's good put in the right hands, and 1 shot will always be a clean kill if it lands on the head. But Profilers, he's got to land a couple of crisp headshots on this round if he wants to have a substantial chance of winning out this round and denying match point. He'll have to drop down in that bathroom hatch, and there's just several sightlines being held. It's Urfi all the way in the back of VIP to spray him down through the soft walling. That will give Barton match point, series point, and championship point in their back pocket. They just need 1 more round to fully confirm everything here on Coastline.
You mentioned how the MX is the superior weapon, but I want to introduce that angle because we saw it's like holding
so
a
now you're gonna
DMR.
say it's a good gun? All right.
No,
Okay, dude.
I want you to. I'm introducing
You don't
a
need to convince
hypothetical.
me. Convince chat.
Okay, chat. Hello, chat. Nice to talk to you guys. It's like, man, fella, it's like you're throwing me into an awkward first date. I don't know how chat's gonna treat me. I've had some bad experiences. We'll see what happens though. Regardless, if you use that gun exactly the way we saw Urfi use in that scenario, I do believe it can be better than the MX Storm because
Defenders,
you
protect
have
your
the
bomb
ability.
from
It's like
being
holding a
completed by
DMR
attackers.
on the single line of sight. There's only one spot they can come from. Those heavy hitting slugs or shells are going to be a lot more effective rather than a whole bunch of light hitting shots, no matter how much you look into spraying them down. And fellow, I don't care if you're telling me in my ear that I'm a bandwagoner. I'm not. I'm bringing a situational approach. And in the situation, it was a good pick. The same way Urfi is no longer opting to go for crazy Super 90 plays, he is being logical with where he's playing.
The old Sniper 90 will not be in play, unfortunately. No more crazy weaponry.
Attackers
As
are
of
moving
now,
to defuse
everything's
the bomb.
pretty default here, except probably just that Frost pick. She's not played a lot on Kitchen and Service, but there are a couple of nice spots you can set up those mats. If you want to play inside of Sunrise Bar, you can set them up near that single window in the site itself in your kitchen, and maybe a cheeky one put around in the bathroom perhaps, or somewhere near lobby, just to be kind of in an awkward position, or just double stack them near kitchen window. That works pretty well on top of that too. But back on the side of Rockland, they're at they're at the very bottom of a long hill, I should say. They have a lot to climb back for. It's going to be 4 consecutive round wins in a row if they want to get to overtime, and that still does not guarantee them this win on Coastline overall. They'll still have to bout it out for 2 more rounds at the very least. So that's 6 rounds in a row, simply put it, for them to win out Coastline, and then they need to do basically the exact same thing here on Chalet. It's not looking like this is really in their ball game, but at least they'll get that first initial gunfight. Starboy with a quick, decisive shot will finish off Thugonomics and gain a lot of map control to just establish that vertical flank. Maybe next second kill is Salty Archer. He's on the camera. He has no idea what just hit him, but at least Starboy will get finished off and maybe potentially killed in the process too. He's only injured, not finished off. That's my mistake, Banks.
Well, you know what? They're down but not out, but how much they're able to do in that state, it's quite questionable, and there's no heal, so he could still use his utility, but one more shot from any weapon, and it does look like he will be meeting his demise. Now, Eggroll sending in his Rotero drones are going to be doing quite an effective job at displacing all the remaining defenders, and you can't help but wonder what is left in the books. In a very nice long angle being held by Earthy. Unfortunately, there's no magnified scope, but Eggroll to find Toaster. Things are looking more and more dire, but we cannot forget that this is Barton Community College. They have come alive in the dying seconds of rounds before. They were on the attacking side where they had to bring the fight. This time, the fight's coming to them, and whether or not they are going to be able to monopolize it is yet to be seen.
Did a great job of punishing this overextension by Barton. It's going to be a 3K for Starboy on this round. It's all up to Jester on the Maestro and can't even find one for his troubles in compensation. It'll be a flawless round to respond back by Rockland, but the question is, can they bring out another 3 rounds like I was talking about earlier, or will this be the final chapter here in the storyline of the NJCAA Grand Finals of R6?
I'm always going to say there's always a chance. I believe a comeback on defense is so much harder than a comeback on attack. So though defense have access to all their sites, the attack don't have to change anything. They don't have to constantly be changing how they are going to be defending, changing operator selection based on a site. They can stick to the same consistent 5, go with their same consistent clear, and they can begin once again to work with that momentum, the well-oiled machine. So Rockland, the hope is not gone. It's just a matter of continuing with that flawless rounds momentum that you just gained.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they
Yeah,
can.
momentum and just morality overall. Getting that flawless clean sweep by Rockland could be enough to maybe secure a couple more in the bag. And I agree with you. A comeback is always possible so long as Rockland just play their cards right. A bigger question will probably come aboard, though, is will Barton allow that to happen? Or is their mental fortitude just as strong as Rockland's? Perhaps that could be a pretty big issue for them moving forward into this 10th round. It's going to be a reattempt here of hookah and billiards for Barton with, again, a heavy emphasis on just that overall plant denial setup. They've got some nice shields in play, particularly by Salty Archer. And again, bring out the Thunderbird, something we have seen constantly on both Clubhouse and now Coastline, just to constantly keep their teammates at full or even overhealing them to make sure they're always ready to go for those gun engagements early on. I mean, look at Thugonomics. He's going for a spawn peek early on, but is not going to net any early success, so it will remain that 5-on-5 early on.
Drone even being spotted out. Thugonomics, I don't think he's rotating back to side. I think he's either going to die on the roam or win the round for his team, and I think that's something that's going to be quite lethal for Rockland to have to deal with, especially on a hookah billiards attack where that clear is going to be so very pivotal. But that is quite a pleasant way to start things off. Starboy to find Earthy, your mute as well as one of your C4s now gone, and that will leave the next 2 minutes for Eggroll to also find his way onto the board. Ying Candelas being detonated, and Toaster will have his retinas burned right out as the push could be coming in from Rockland. But look at this, the insecurity, the inability to know is what could be the demise. C4 coming out is going to be able to down Weasel, but hey, how nice. Real is right there to pick him right back up. Starboy to find the refrag for his partially fallen comrade.
Yeah, the patience by Starboy really paid dividends, and Grand Weasel now being revived is going to keep things in that 5vx situation for Rockland. Only needing to clear out a few more players as Jester and Toaster left alive here to potentially deny this comeback here for Rockland. As Big Shady Bolt comes out, that'll force Toaster to overextend a little bit. He'll still keep himself at bay, though. Down goes the Capitao. This could be another here by Toaster. He's on such little HP, and underneath, the skeleton key rings out. It allows Grand Weasel to finish off the Jaeger, forcing Jester, the last alive flank going down. There's coverage on the big window, and he can't land a shot with the Alda. It's real to wrap out this round here for Rockland to still keep them alive here on Coastline for another round in a row.
That's now 2 rounds consecutively, and where does that leave us? With 2 now to go. Rockland proving that they did not show up to this final only to be beat in 2 maps. They are putting their foot down. If Barton's going to take it, they are going to have to take it by force. Now we're going to be looking to see a penthouse theater reattempt coming out from Rockland, which they were from Barton, which they were previously able to win out, and it was quite a successful hold. But look at the biggest difference. That's right, Maverick and Thermite are taken on the board, meaning if the VIP extension is reattempted, no, it's going to be shut right down with that wall open.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest issue for Rockland last time they attacked the side of Penthouse and Theater. They all just kind of dropped down the bathroom hatch and hope for the best, really. And there were multiple sight lines established by Barton to deny that funnel pretty well. So, like you mentioned, having the Thermite and Maverick on the board will allow for a couple more angles to be opened up for them, giving them more fluidity to try and attack Penthouse and Theater. And maybe they'll opt to, take some of the notes out of Barton's book and try to go all the way around inside of Theater and go for a plant inside of Projector instead. That could be a possibility on the board, but again, Barton, they still have plenty of denial. They've got Nitros on the board, and instead of a smoke, instead they've got out Jester on the Tachanka here, both used for that stop destruction to help out the Alibi and Mute player, but also those Shamika launchers can be used at a very long range to really just deny an entire portion of the map for a really good chunk of time.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
I love that Thug is going for these aggressive picks, but it's so very questionable the moment he gets droned out. And he did get droned out from Starboy there. Starboy's been doing a phenomenal job of just hunting down Thug. And we know that when Thug gets started, he doesn't want to stop. And I think that's proven by the fact he's roaming on Cade, which, fellow, I'm not going to lie to you, is a questionable decision.
I mean, you already have your gadgets placed. You're not actively Cade tricking, but you are a very loud operator, and if you lose out on that extra cell, that could be a pretty big upset moving later into the round. So definitely not the best thing I've seen this evening, but also not the worst overall, especially if you can just rotate quickly enough and not have these attackers punish you for playing overtly aggressive. We already have that Kaid repositioned yet again, this time inside of Kitchen. And if no one hears them pushing in through that single doorway, this could be a quick 2K to the Kaid's name. Thugonomics looking to get more than just these 10 picks, but the Ash is waiting so patiently. Down he goes, and egg roll. All three will finish off Jester as well. It's a fantastic start by Rockland to make it this early 5-on-2. They only need to find out Toaster and Salty Archer left inside of the objective room with only their thoughts left here to try to think about.
Toaster does have something to say about it. He'll be able to collect onto Egg Roll. They do have to worry about the fact that everything has been compromised. You saw the head, Salty. You just have to tap. Regardless, Real will be able to find all of them. The Toaster need to find 5, but Profilers is going to be there to find his head instead. And now we're going to see a 1-round differential between these two teams as we see the last round in regular time.
I think the word here is overconfidence. I think Barton is expecting Rockland to make more mistakes than they actually are. Could they have been a little more effective clearing out that roam game underneath? Absolutely. They could have already had someone playing for a cutoff angle very early into that round to get that first initial pick. But they still got it in the end because how loud Kaid is, and Asher's just watching the cutoff angle. And then Eggroll found an early pick as well. It really doesn't matter what Barton has been, throwing at Rockland. They've been able to evade it pretty effectively so far. And like you mentioned, we are 1 round away from either going past that 12-round regulatory mark, or we're going to see a 7-5 victory for Barton. Either way, this has still been a much more exciting matchup here on Coastline in comparison to that Clubhouse game where it was very one-sided. At least Rockland have been able to bite back just a fair amount here to, kind of give Barton second thoughts on all the plays they've been trying to make here in this best-of-3 series.
I'm interested in them going back to Penthouse, John. It's concerning, to say the least. You can see the debate from Jester. Is he going to reinforce all 3, leave them soft once again? Because they're not taking the Tachanka. They have Archer, who does have that Mossberg setting up inside of VIP. This does look like a completely different hold, but you still have that Maverick. You have that Thermite, which are going to be a thorn in your side. Not to mention the vertical pressure that you will be experiencing almost constantly from Starboy. It's going to come down to Thugonomics' ability to shut them down. But no, once again, the aggressiveness will not pay off.
At least he didn't get his head ripped off yet. He's been the one to die pretty early in a good chunk of these rounds. Amazi Peslo will break one of those drones that could have been used to clear out both the Vigil and Mozzie, who are still roaming underneath in that bottom floor, but no one has been able to strike first just yet. It's been a bit of a dance between both Rockland and Barton, as on our screen currently, we've got the Maverick blowtorching up that main wall, chucks out a grenade, which will force back one if it didn't actually get caught by an ADS, I believe to be. I heard no detonation, so it might have just missed its mark entirely, and at least that will keep things dead even. It's been the first minute of the round, Binks, and still no one has died, but I might have spoken too soon as a nitro cell gets lobbied out, and down goes the buck early on. That's a great lead for Barton.
That's exactly what you need to see. And now the swing from Real. The only problem here is if Alibi had that MX Storm, you would be in a much better position to take things out. But look, Eggroll is just waiting, finding the head, will be successful, shooting at the Alibi. And look at that trigger discipline. Although we shut it out, he will get pinged. But Earthy, this is now figure 2, where I talked about figure 1, where it is a good choice to have that shotgun. Here's figure 2, where it's not what you want. But good night from Gesture onto Profilers. That will now bring us down to a 3v4. Headshots coming out, and Earthy, why do you have to prove me wrong every single time? Now up to Eggroll and Weasel to keep their team alive.
It's 2 versus 4. Everything is on the line for Rockland. It'll be some of the top fraggers here to try to bring this one out, particularly Eggroll, who has been able to silence a lot of his opposition, at least in this second map. Soft pings coming through that. Mozzie Pest gathering a lot of last-second information to try to shut down this Nomad earlier than expected to force that true 1vx situation. And Jester is just waiting at the top of White Stairs for that Thermite player to push in through. Down he goes. It's all up to Grand Weasel, and his position is well known at this point. The Vigil is waiting yet again. It's Jester to possibly finish this one out for his team, as Grand Weasel has to climb over a gigantic obstacle here, and he's not able to do it. It's 7-5 for Barton. It was a valiant attempt by Rockland to bring that one back, but in the end, they'll fall short, and it'll be a 2-0 victory for Barton in this grand final series.
Such a valiant effort, and they did such a good job playing together, and we saw both those teams, especially on those final few rounds of Coastline, really show what they can do. And if I truly believe if we saw an entire series, if they started like that on Clubhouse, then we could have seen all 3 maps. But regardless, we do have a special interview from the winners for you guys, so don't go anywhere. We're going to swing it to a very quick break and be right back.
Welcome back, everyone, to the post-game interview. We've got one of the players on the side of Barton Community College up here in the booth with us. It's going to be Thugonomics asking all of our questions that we've been dying to say now for just a little while. Oh, he's even got a camera on. That's great. I know that VMix absolutely hates people that join it that don't have a camera, so that's a big sigh of relief on my mind. But Thugonomics, first off, congrats on your win. But also, how do you feel after winning out that grand final series with a quick 2-0?
A little relieved that like second map was getting a little too close, but we had to close it out, I'm definitely proud of the team. Like we did a really good job. I'm just feeling really relieved overall.
That's very solid. I'm glad to hear that. I had a few questions for you. We'll start with the first map, as I have one there, and it is quite simple. It's actually the OSA pick that you guys did on your attack. What was the reason beside that? Because we saw a very convincing angle where you place it at the top of Red Stairs, right next to the doorway. So could you just take me through the thought process there and explain the site?
So basically our thought process on that was we wanted to have our flank watch dead set on watching that with being safe on that. Only 2 ways you can destroy that shield is really impacting it, and I think an Oryx can dash through, but I'm not sure. And then after we got control with kitchen and everything, we were going to go down bottom main with that OSA and put it on the doorway so we could watch the cross for our planter.
That is quite the setup, and it's quite interesting to see and quite motivating since you guys have those setups now ready to go, even though she is very new to the meta. Now, one question for your push on Coastline. When we saw you guys on the attacking end, you guys seem to have a lot more confidence in being able to take things out. So in retrospect, for the attacking versus defending side, what would you guys say that your biggest strengths and weaknesses are?
I definitely have to say our confidence is one. If you don't have confidence, you like most likely won't win a gunfight or anything. You got to have confidence going into every gunfight. And that's one reason why we like to pick Coastline, because it is a more aggressive map rather than Clubhouse or Villa. That's one of the main reasons why. Some of our weaknesses is sometimes we do become a little more passive when we should be aggressive. But I mean, we still push through at the end of the day.
That's a very valid point, and that's all I essentially got, fellow. If you have anything else,
No, I mean,
I'm at a
overall,
loss.
I mean, I don't blame you all that much. I mean, that was a well thought out win. You know, has a little bit worried there at the end. We saw a really good comeback towards the very end of Coastline, but you're able just to barely pinch it out to make it that 7-5 victory. All that being said, though, if there's anyone you want to give a shout out to or just thank while you're up here on the booth, I mean, now is your time to do so. So feel free, man.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank everyone here on the team, Coach Kurt. Um, we came together. We really came a far, like our beginning of the season till now is just an incredible improvement. And I got to shout out the family, of course. But other than that, that's about it.
All right. Well, it was great having you on here for the interview. Hope you have a great rest of your night and enjoy that victory, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, you too. Yeah. Well, all that being said, Vince, it's been an absolute blast here up in the booth with you, getting to cast over this best-of-3 grand final with Barton Community College taking away that victory quite successfully. I'm hoping to see more from Rockland, though, next season, because they did give back a pretty good attempt on Coastline, like I referenced a few times now. But with all that being said, that concludes this evening here. If you want to go check out our Twitters, feel free to do so at Fellow the Caster and also at BinksCast. And, maybe also a couple other people as well. I was talking with Stickler for a little while. He was giving me some nice little talking bits too to mention here and there. Some funny puns in case they happen. Like if Barton went to the bar site, I could have did bar ton, but so shout out to at Stickler Cast as well. And also the people behind the scenes as well. We had our lovely producer of Callow here, who I got to meet for the first time. He was an absolute blast working with. And of course, Max D, one of my favorite observers of all time. He had to leave a little bit early, but his observing work was phenomenal as always. Cream of the crop, in all honesty. But all that being said, hope you all have a great rest of your night and to see you all again next season for some more NJCAAE action.